Have you ever played the 손병호 game or image game? In the game, you say, "This kind of person, put down a finger." And the people who match the description do so. If you put down all your fingers, you're out. In America, we have a game that's kinda similar called Never Have I Ever. In the game, each person shares something they've never experienced, and anyone with that experience puts down one finger or drinks. For example, someone might say, "Never have I ever been arrested." Usually, if someone puts down their finger, they have to share about their experience. It's a good way to get to know more about the people around you. Now, the example sentence might look a little strange to you. Some of the words have switched places for emphasis, called inversion, which we'll talk about on another day. You can rearrange the sentence to something like this. This sentence is an example of the present perfect tense, our topic for today. Perfect tenses can be difficult for many Korean learners, mostly because perfect tenses don't really exist in Korean. Why do we call it the perfect tense? Perfect comes from Latin, meaning complete, but it's more complicated than that. If it only described an action that is finished, we would use the past tense. Instead, what perfect tenses do is connect what is happening at the point of speaking with something that happened or started before. Our form for today is the present perfect, have or has, and the past participle. One common way it is used is to talk about experiences, similar to the form 한 적 있다. We use the perfect tense to say that the experience happened before the present, but the fact that the experience happened was true, is true, and will always be true. I've heard students use sentences like this: "I have an experience of traveling to Spain," which is almost like a direct translation of the Korean sentence. It's not wrong, but it will sound strange because it's needlessly long. Instead, you can simply say, "I've been to Spain." It's much shorter, right? If I asked you the same question yesterday, you would have the same answer. If I asked you tomorrow, the answer will still be the same. The experience will always be with you since that day. Many of the questions I ask at the beginning of my videos ask about experiences, so you'll see this very often. You might be wondering why I used been instead of gone. This is a special use of been that we use with the present perfect for experiences. With other verbs, just remember to use the past participle and the word never with negative sentences. So then when do we use the present perfect, and when do we use the simple past? We use the present perfect when we're talking about whether or not someone has had an experience. As a result, it's very common in questions or responses. You can think of a present perfect sentence as having the phrase "before in my life" included without being said. We use the simple past when we say or it is understood when something happened in the past. For example, I went to Spain last year. So how do we use both of these tenses practically? As I said, usually we use the present perfect to ask or answer questions about experiences. In a response, it will usually be used at the beginning of a story. Then we use the simple past to give specific details about things that happened in the past. The second use of the present perfect is to say that a state or action started in the past and continues into the present. And I would say this use is similar to the feeling conveyed by the Korean grammatical structure 해오다. Now let's look at this sentence. I've known my best friend since we were in kindergarten. It means that the first time I met my friend was in kindergarten. After meeting my friend, I knew him the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that, on and on until the present. It's still true that I know him. This is why we use been for experiences. Because if we use gone, it means that the person went to Spain and is still there. Because we are connecting the past and present, two prepositions we often use with the present perfect are for and since. We use since to indicate the starting point, and for to indicate the length of time that something happened. You'll also notice that the verbs we use in the second point are not really action verbs. They describe states such as know or be. If you want to say that an action started in the past and continues to the present, you can use the present perfect continuous, have or has, been, verb plus ing. So let's go back to the game from the beginning of the video and see how they use the present perfect and the simple past. If you watch shows in English on Netflix or videos on YouTube, see if you can get a feel for noticing how the present perfect is used to talk about experiences and ongoing states or actions in everyday conversation.